I don't want clever conversation. Don't want to have to work that hard.
I hear everybody. What's the recording? How's the recording going?
Hear,
Do we have left and right?
The left hand.
I hear everybody.
The left hand level is not as high as the right.
Okay. I'm going to try to speak only out of the left side of my mouth.
Doesn't help anything.
Will you know?
Don't touch anything else until I tell you to touch it. Hello, guys.
Hello, Donnie. I was in Chicago.
This is, we're rolling on episode 1. Here we go.
We've begun?
Well, I'm just doing that as some sort. Since we have no visual anything, I'm weirded out by this whole thing. You know what I mean?
I got to bring up the script.
Oh,
wait, there's a script?
Didn't you print it out? Oh, you printed out other stuff.
Printed out my stuff.
Got it. Okay.
You look at Sean's script.
I did.
right.
You don't look at my
Oh,
script.
I memorized it. I memorized Sean. I did a lot of prep for this. Hello and welcome to the Countdown Show, when we get you ready for some of the biggest blockbusters to hit the movie theaters.
From Countdown to 9, Star Wars, to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
To Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Yes, and this time we're counting down to the upcoming James Gunn Superman movie.
That's right, and if you're a fan of the show, as you can see, we've made some changes. Namely, you can't see us. We are just recording audio this time around.
Yes, we figured with our big-time Hollywood schedules and such, there's just not enough time to do post.
So, who are we?
The Super Friends.
No.
Batman.
No.
Well, who the hell are we then?
Just 3 dudes who love movies and love talking about them even more. I'm Sean Blodgett of Creative Motion Entertainment.
I'm Paul Preston of the Movie Guys.
And I'm Justin Bowler of The World.
So this time around, we're talking about Superman.
Yes, and we're going to jump right into talking about the original Superman the movie, starring Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder, and directed by Richard Donner.
Hey, wait. We should tell the audience the story just to set it up, probably, too. That's
Sure.
kind of what we do.
All right, we can do that. All right. Okay. A child is born on a doomed planet called Krypton. His parents send him to Earth, where he gains powers beyond belief.
Flight!
Check.
Laser eyes.
Check.
A saran wrap S that he can throw to catch the bad guys.
What? Oh, no, that's Superman 2, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, the bottom line, he comes to Earth, gains power, gets raised by farmers, fights bad guys, and turns back time.
If I could turn back time.
Okay, seriously, the world regrets knowing you.
Hold on, I just want to finish that off as a chicken. Okay, never mind. The important part is that there's lots to talk about here, so let's just jump in. Do you remember when you saw it and where?
Paul, you're always good at this. Jump in. Where did you see? Do you remember where you saw it?
In the theater. That's,
Really?
I saw Star Wars in the theater.
What?
So yeah, this was.
How old are you?
Yeah, exactly.
410.
It didn't quite get me like Star Wars did. You saw the Star Destroyer go over my head, and I was like, I'm in for whatever this is for life. But Superman was still pretty incredible. And it had the greatest tagline of all time. You will believe a man can fly.
100%.
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
It encompasses everything movies are about. Wonder, imagination, delivering something you could not see otherwise. And so I was in, and everybody knows Superman. I mean, that's the most amazing thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which we've talked about with Deadpool and more. That the biggest superheroes of all time are Batman and Superman, so they should just be making Batman and Superman movies forever. And the fact that the MCU started with Iron Man and Captain America is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they've outpaced DC now. But Superman's the biggest, so of course this is where you start back in 1978. And there are many movies from the 70s and 80s I've grown out of, but I feel I've grown into Superman the movie and appreciated it more the more times I saw it. And the latest time I saw it was at the Walt Disney Concert Hall downtown, where
With the orchestra.
We live in a place where we have this beautiful thing where they show movies and they take the score out of the soundtrack, and the score will be played live. The LA Phil played the score live. Incredible. And the Disney Concert Hall, it's like right there. They're not the Hollywood Bowl where they're 100 yards away.
And that place is made for, it's a concert hall.
Yeah.
I mean, it's made for that. That is fantastic.
Dudamel, I think, was conducting as well. And so it was just incredible. And what's amazing is the L.A. Phil, they don't miss a note.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back the next night, play Rhapsody in Blue, not miss. Like every night they play something different practically, and they don't miss a note.
Professionals.
Wait, they're professionals?
Yeah.
It's like the people that are playing those instruments. It's almost as if they've been playing them for years.
But like and then to time it perfectly. I mean, the whole thing is an incredible experience. So
wait, they're not just winging this stuff. They're coming out and they're prepared. They rehearse it. I don't even understand what's happening.
I'm grateful to have seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, Empire Strikes Back, Back to the Future, E.T., and more movies in this way. And Superman did not. Because the whole beginning of the movie is an overture, essentially. Like if you think back to the 60s with all these movies that had overtures of the scores, like West Side Story or I think even Lawrence of Arabia. So that's essentially what this was when they play those opening credits and then continue to kick ass the rest of the show. That was the best way I've seen it yet.
I don't remember seeing it in the movie theater, although I may have. I mean, I was little, obviously, but like... I just remember growing up watching it, and it was always around. It was on TV, and then, of course, eventually on I think, did we have it on Beta? Because we had Betamax, VHS. But I want to talk about this because this was an impactful moment when I saw it. When DVDs first came out, yes, that's right. When DVDs first came out,
You're telling this to me?
Yeah, I know.
When I first saw Superman, I heard it over. Okay,
which is still a great sound, and I missed that. But when DVDs first came out, I got Superman, and it was the first time I remembered seeing it widescreen, seeing the full image that was in the movie theaters, because I grew up watching it so much on television, and of course VHS and Beta were all formatted for 4:3, so everything was pan and scan. And the first time I saw it on DVD, I remember thinking, I don't feel like I've ever seen this movie. I am so excited. I was blown away by the images. And by the way, watching it again in preparation for this, I was blown away again by the images, that 70s filmmaking, that sort of blown out look that always is, and then of course there's a little bit of grain. I think I watched it on Max, and I think this was maybe it was a new 4K scan or what, but I mean, it has the grain and all this stuff, and it looked so amazing, and there's so much to talk about in terms of the filmmaking. Yeah. The 70s style of filmmaking, so different than 100%, today.
100%.
Especially because they're shooting on film, they're moving the camera, but the camera is capturing the story.
Yeah.
And it's not distracting. There's not 500,000 cuts because they've done like every angle known to mankind.
Well, right. Everything is intentional. It's all
everything is intentional. Somebody walks in, the camera dollies with that, whatever it is. And it's just some of the shots, especially I think of the first half of the movie, the origin sequence, the origin section of the movie, which is honestly that's my favorite part of the whole movie. It's just so beautiful, and I was surprised I didn't know they shot all that in Canada. But I'm jumping ahead. But anyway, but that's my memory. The DVD blew me away. That was the first time seeing it wide. I was amazed. Justin,
Superman's flying overhead right now.
He is. He's saying hi.
It's hilarious that in the Admirals Club, the only thing we hear are planes. We never hear boats. I mean, maybe there's space admirals like Kirk.
We've landed on a planet.
It's the high-end lounge. All right, go ahead.
Strange aliens everywhere.
I have never seen this movie in the theater. I first off, my introduction to Superman, Super Friends, and then movie Superman was Superman 2, which was on HBO as a kid. All the time. All the time. It was 4 times a day, every other day. I mean, it really was. It was just on and on and on. It is one of that and Clash of the Titans are the 2 movies that defined my childhood.
And then after 10 o'clock, HBO got really interesting.
Weren't allowed to watch it after that.
Let's not forget Oh Heavenly Dog.
Right. But it was just like, so I could recite lines from Superman 2 my entire life as a child. And then it wasn't until college that I actually got to see Superman, the movie, and to which I'd never seen any of it. And I was like, oh, okay, so we start off with these, with the 3 villains that I love so much. All right, they're on Krypton. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, all right. And then we get to Lois Lane dying. Spoilers. I'm like, wait, what? How does this? No, she's in the next one. And then I'm like, is this going to be stupid? Is this going to be dumb? This doesn't even make sense now. And then you see him go back and meddle with human history. But it was just like, so I literally didn't even see this movie for the first time until I was in college. And it must have been on DVD at that point. Yeah. So I still haven't seen it in the movie theater, and to see it with an orchestra. Oh my God!
Oh
Paul,
my God! I would love to see that because, and I'm jumping ahead. I'm just going to say, I mean, John Williams' score is, I mean, we always talk about him. He always knocks it out of the park, but it's really another character.
It is.
It's another character in the movie. It's so amazing.
On my list of notes here of favorite moments that I had, the score is the top of the list because that score, just hearing the dun. It's just it's like the Raiders theme where it just gets you excited about what something's gonna happen and I don't even know what it is.
Yep. I mean, the opening sequence of the bump-a-dum.
Yeah,
bump-a-dum,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And he literally throws out the fishing line and reels you in real slow, and I'm like, how does anybody have that much genius? Right. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, no, I have not seen this movie in a very, very long time, and we'll talk about all the things that surprised me.
Yeah.
But that score alone instantly started to make me feel like a kid and really excited. I was like, wow, some awesome stuff is about to happen right now. Something's about to happen. He's going to save somebody, and then he's going to have a cool line.
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
Well, if I may tangent for a second about two things. First of all, if you like the score, what do they call it? They call it... score to film something. I don't know what it is, but the live score accompaniment to a movie. Jaws and Jurassic Park are getting that treatment at the Bowl this summer. So
very nice.
Oh man,
Jurassic Park would be fantastic.
Yeah. So this year I had trouble coming up with my favorite film of the year. Normally by the awards season I have my favorite film, and then it's time to see if something can unseat it. Can you be better than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? No. Can you be better than La La Land? No. Better than Captain Phillips or No Country for Old Men or all these other movies that by now I have as my number one. And I had nothing. Like, I liked Anora. I loved Wicked. I'm sitting there going, what is my favorite film of the year?
By the way, Wicked for me, one of my favorite cinematic experiences. I loved it.
I literally jumped when you said, by the way, you were so excited. I was like, oh, Jesus.
That's
Sean, that's good. That is an endorsement.
You should.
He's so happy about it. He's scaring me into seeing it.
I mean, it's really the best film the director of G.I. Joe Retaliation's ever made.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's a fact. Look it up. But no, I watched that movie and I'm like, I'm enjoying this. So I remember seeing it on stage. They're telling the story very well. I like all these actors. By the end, crying my eyes out. Mm-hmm. So it snuck up on me.
Yep.
But the best film I've seen all year is Music by John Williams, the documentary on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Oh.
And it's not because of some amazing filmmaking. It's because he's amazing.
Yeah.
And the music is amazing. And it will just reach down in your heart and give it a big hug. That movie is and the lineup of testimonials you get from people.
Oh, I'm sure.
Spielberg, Mangold, Lucas, Silvestri, it's on and on and on of the best people who work in the business.
Yeah.
And so that just, Spielberg says something, I'm going to paraphrase it, no, the music comes from the ether down through him into the world. It's the single greatest artistic achievement I've ever seen from a person. You know, and it's
what an amazing thing to say about somebody.
Yeah. And then you have documentaries and biopics about musicians, and you just find out what an a-hole they are. Yeah. Right? Even this year, Bob Dylan, it turns out he's a jerk. Okay, well, thank God I watched this movie because I had other opinions. Jimi Hendrix is a jerk, and just right on down. Right. Everyone you see in these docs, John Williams just becomes more of that great person you think he is.
Right.
And he's just ridiculously talented. And just I cried most of that movie just because the music. And I saw it on a TV in my bedroom. It wasn't even overwhelming sound or anything. So anyway, I had to.
I appreciate you bringing that up because I had totally forgot that was on there. Now I'm going to watch it. So I'm excited about it. Yeah.
I played for a week in the theaters and went right to streaming.
God, I wish I would have seen it at theaters.
Same,
right?
I know.
With an impressive sound system.
My God. I want to say about the music and I mentioned the general filmmaking. There's moments with his music and with some of the shots where they're using a little crane setup or whatever, and the camera's just moving, and there's these swells of music. I found myself getting emotional.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
many times, 100%. And I'm like, I've seen this movie. Why is this affecting me so much? But it's the power of cinema.
Yeah,
it's the power of what this this storytelling device is, and it made me just so happy, and it makes me this is what I think the young people of today are sometimes missing out on, because we're consuming so much of our stuff on phones or like maybe on our computer or whatever. But like when you go into a movie theater and you have that sound surrounding you, and it just envelops you, and something comes from the left, the front left, and something happens in the back right because it's got the surround mix, and then there's something that happens all the way around. You're like, that is also immersive entertainment, and I don't think movies get
thought out.
Yeah, I mean, it's thought out. It's all part of craft and art and creativity, and like it's not just technical. Like, I think I'm gonna put this in the right channel, and I'm gonna turn that up. Like, no, this is somebody really thought about this.
That was his George Lucas impression, by the way.
And I will be harsher than you and just say that all that crap on the phones is artless. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go.
Jerry Goldsmith was almost the guy, though.
That's what I was looking for. That I'm like, I knew I had a reason why he dropped out.
He would not have been a bad second choice.
No,
I mean,
he would have been great.
He would have been great. I mean, yeah.
It wouldn't have been a second character, had he done it.
That's a good.
It wouldn't have been the narrator. Like it's almost the narrator.
You're right. He really is the narrator. I agree. It would have been supporting. He's phenomenal. He's fantastic. I love him. It's all great, and it's something the stuff he does are things that you remember. But that is a great way to describe it. The music is the narrator.
Yeah, and he turned around and knocked it out with Star Trek: The Motion Picture. So
right.
But these were the days though when the theme song to Superman charted at 81 on
Which
the
is
top
crazy.
100.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen anymore. And then Can You Read My Mind made it to number 52. But yeah. Now you got to be some, I don't know, Kendrick Lamar song or whatever to do that.
Right.
It's not gonna come from...
to break any numbers.
Released in 1978, December 15th. Opening weekend, $7.5 million.
Well, it's hard to believe. I would think it would be summer, but I guess not.
No. Made $300 million internationally. The budget, $55 million, which was the highest budget to date.
Wow.
The equivalent of that today, in today's terms, is about $270 million. So this was an expensive film.
By the way, I want to say 300 million. That's worldwide, right? Globally.
That is worldwide. Yeah.
So we take all.
I said internationally, but
international. Fine, whatever. But like
all the nations make up the world. Justin knows he's from there.
I am from the world. Just ask me about it. You want pictures?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Worldwide distribution of a major motion picture at that time. We are talking film prints.
Oh yeah.
Canisters.
Yeah.
Putting it on the platters and all. I think, did they have the platter system then, or were they were still switching over reels?
They might have been
switching over reels. This is not an easy. We think about these numbers and we often just go, well, in today's would have been this and that. But think about what it was like to distribute a motion picture at that time. Get it out there, get it seen. I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
300 million is great.
300 million. Yeah. Adjusted for inflation, 1.5 billion. I mean, that's big. Believe it or not the highest grossing film of that year.
Isn't that crazy?
What?
Yeah.
What was?
Do you know the other one then?
don't.
Do you?
I don't.
The lead of this film originally auditioned for this part.
Star Wars?
Well, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. There were a lot of people that auditioned, but this guy auditioned.
Is it Star Wars?
But it couldn't do it. No.
John Travolta?
John Travolta.
Grease is number one.
Grease was number one for that year.
Grease was number one?
Number one, yeah. It was also...
it's still statistically speaking the safest form of travel.
That's right.
Well done.
For those of you that haven't seen this movie in a while, you'll find that funny if you come back and listen to this after you watch it. The film surpassed Giant, which was 1956, to become the highest grossing film in Warner Brothers history up to that time.
Wow, it's hard to believe Giant was number one.
Yeah.
So none of the seven. Wow, it's hard to believe that.
For Warner Brothers.
But
surpassed by another DC film in 1989.
Batman.
Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim
Batman.
Burton. Batman. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, DC definitely kind of ruled the day in the 80s, I think, in terms of movies and what was Marvel? What was a Marvel thing?
Marvel hasn't been a thing for a very, very long time.
Yeah,
I mean, they tried. They had like Spider-Man. Have you ever seen the Spider-Man, the Asian Spider-Man? That like they did like they're like in I don't know if it was like in Japan or China, they did like an actual, it was like a TV show or something, and it's an Asian Spider-Man story, and like they have like the suit up. You have to look up the Asian Spider-Man suit up. It is brilliant. Like it literally like almost like holds in front of him and like bing, it's like it's on.
Yeah, like there were.
It's great.
Like that was the thing of Comic-Cons back in the day. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Comic-Con. Someone's going to have that on VHS.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Italian Spider-Man and all these other
yeah.
overseas Spider-Man shows.
Oh,
and
so
movies.
great. Oh, so great. Yeah. All right, go on. There you go. You got something else, Justin.
I do. Richard Donner, film prior to this was The Omen. Then he did this. Do you know what it and The Omen shared in common cinematically?
Both shot on film.
But yeah. There's a very specific shot in both of the films.
Director. Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
Very specific shot in both of the films.
I don't know.
At the end of I don't know how long it's been since you've seen The Omen. Damien, excuse me.
Wait, does Martha Kent throw herself out a window and hang herself?
And she finds out.
Oh my God.
No, Damien at the very end of the film breaks the fourth wall, looks directly at the audience, stares into the camera. Superman did at the end of the movie. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
I had forgotten he did that.
right.
And in seeing that, you see him finally look at the camera and just give a little smile, and then he flies away. I was like, holy crap. That's right. I remembered that he broke the fourth wall.
Oh, Superman. I remembered Superman did that.
Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
Damien did
Damien did it as well.
Probably because I need to forget that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's scary.
And then, of course, his very next film obviously would have been Superman 2. We'll get to that in a minute. But instead, it was Inside Moves. Do either of you know Inside Moves?
I've heard of it,
I was
yeah.
going to say Paul might.
Is that Walter Matthau or is that John Travolta?
No, it's
neither?
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
I like that your John Travolta's really Italian. It's neither. He's basically Mario.
It's John Travolta.
No. Movie called Inside Moves, which not only
Wait, I know
have I
who's in
never
this.
seen.
It's not Jamie Lee Curtis. Who's in it?
No, I had never even heard of until I did it. It is about a guy who tries to commit suicide. In trying to commit suicide, ends up becoming handicapped. During the course of that, then he ends up meeting people in a bar who are all handicapped, and they become kind of a ragtag team of friends who have little life adventures, if you will.
Is this the prequel to the A-Team?
Is this the sequel to The Goonies?
It's one of those where it's like I watched the trailer and I went, I've not only never seen this movie, I've never even heard of this movie. The only actor in it that I knew of was David Morse. And it's a very young David Morse. John Savage, David Morse, Diana Scarwood, Amy Wright, Tony Burton, Bill Henderson. I mean, it's one of these where Jack O'Leary, you look
Bill
at
Henderson.
the trailer.
That guy owes me money.
He owes me money. Yeah, quite a step down. Oh, so he was going to do Superman 2. Instead, he did Inside Moves. And yeah, I'm sorry. It happened to you.
I do remember that. Maybe John Savage is the one I remember being in that because he was a 70s guy.
But the story, obviously, for Richard Donner, going back to it, they were shooting them back to back. It was supposed to be 2 movies.
Yes. That I remember. Yeah.
Richard Donner, unhappy with the Salkind brothers. Is that how you pronounce their last name?
Salkind, yeah.
Salkind.
Ilya and Alexander, Mexican producers who made a whole bunch of whatever, and then Superman. Like they made a bunch of films, I believe, in Mexico that you'd never heard of, and then Superman.
Growing tensions with producers. They claimed he was significantly over budget and behind schedule during filming, leading them to replace him with Richard Lester to finish the movie. Apparently, Donner's vision of the film differed considerably from the producer's desired direction, furthering the conflict.
Well, I'll tell you who the winner was. Richard Donner went on to make The Goonies, Lady Hawk, and Lethal Weapon.
Yeah,
and then
the entire Lethal Weapon
the
franchise.
Salkinds went on to make Santa Claus the movie and Christopher Columbus the Discovery.
Exactly.
So you have your winner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they ended up getting rid of him. Richard Lester was brought in, resulting in a significantly different film for Superman 2, which we'll get to because I now own the Blu-ray of the Donner cut for Superman 2, and I've never seen it, so I'm
There's
excited.
going to be
about
so
together
much
for that.
to talk about with regard to that. Have you watched it yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I'm not going to
Let's
say
watch
anything.
that together because I've never seen it.
Let's all watch it together.
Let's
you know
all
what?
get
You
together.
guys too, listening at home.
And we'll pass the savings on to you.
Call in right now if you think we ought to do this. What's the number?
555-1212.
Is this not a live show? People can't
If we
call
even
in.
talk about what we're doing here, we're going to give you an episode on what movies are we covering so people know when they're listening.
100%.
Come back, we'll watch a Superman. We'll have a
We're
Superman
going to do
2
Superman
episode.
2, Superman 3, Superman 4.
Which I have not seen since the theater. Superman 4.
You did more than I did.
What else?
Superman Returns.
which I'm very interested in. I actually was thinking, do we watch that after Superman 2? Because isn't that supposed to technically take place after Superman 2?
It's either after Superman 2 or after Superman 3. One of the two.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Order of release.
Yeah.
In order
we're going to go in
that's
order
fine.
of release.
Order of release is fine. But I remember that being a thing when
Right.
that movie came out, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, way to rewrite history, but
We did Countdown to Star Wars in the order of chronologically in their world, right? Which is not how you should
Which
watch
is
it.
not
But-
how you should watch
really?
Star Wars.
Yeah.
No,
But
you-
1 through
you should-
9.
you
But
should
there's
watch.
a show where you assume everyone's seen all these movies.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is true.
yeah. And then of course, go on. Yeah.
Then after Superman Returns, we'll do Man of Steel.
Yep.
Batman v Superman, and then Justice League.
It's not going to get better.
And leading up to here's the thing,
we're
though.
peaking early.
We are. This is true. Well, here's the thing, and we even debated on whether or not Sean and I were debating on whether or not we should even do, Justice League, because Superman is in Justice League for about 15 minutes, even in the Zack Snyder cut. Okay, maybe 18. Not a whole lot is there, but we don't know what James Gunn is going to reincorporate, requel, or whatever into this.
Yeah.
DC and Marvel are both kind of fluid. We've got different universes that we're establishing, so who knows what's going to end up happening.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's why we felt the need to do it. And on top of that, those don't need to be terribly long shows. I did not like, spoiler, I did not really like Justice League. I think or Batman v Superman, I think the Schneider cut of them make them, a tiny little bit better.
I agree with that.
I like that you keep saying Schneider and not
do.
Snyder.
You know what?
Only
It is so
because
funny.
I'm literally.
I picture the guy
Welcome
from
back,
One
Connor.
Day at a Time. One Day at a Time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, one day at a time. That's right. That's it. Yeah. One day at a time.
Splicing.
I have a good
film.
friend. Her name is Mandy Snyder, and she's like, my husband says that too. Said what? He calls him Schneider instead of Snyder, and I'm like, it's his last name. And she's like, I know.
I actually think, and we don't have to talk about it, but we should at least mention it. I do consider the Flash part of this as well, and I know there was a lot of controversy about that movie, and I'm going to step aside from that controversy and just say I enjoyed the movie.
Right.
I enjoyed the movie, and by the way, I loved. Is she a Superwoman or Supergirl in that? I don't know what they refer to her as.
She's Superwoman in that. She's not Supergirl.
Yeah, Superwoman. I love her in that. I love whatever that little piece of storyline is. I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
And if you were going to go, and we'll get into that with other episodes, but if you were going to go into a dark version of Superman, of super person, whatever you want to say,
Right.
that is the story. And that actress, she was awesome.
Yeah.
I just loved her in that. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as the people on the podcast, we'll branch out. For those of you that want to follow along, there's a fantastic documentary. We're not going to cover a lot of it, but we'll bring in some of the stories from it. It's called The Death of Superman Lives, which is a Superman movie that was going to be made that never ended up happening, starring Nicolas Cage as the Man of Steel.
Which is why he shows up in The Flash. He gets a huge applause.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really cool.
I'm more of a
I think-
superhero protector. That's my Nicolas Cage.
Well done. Hey, gentlemen, listen, I think we would be remiss if we didn't at least talk about Gene Hackman, who
Just
unfortunately just
Yeah.
passed away. I thought, wow, this is so weird
Yep.
that we're coming to do this episode about Superman the movie. He's such a big part of the Superman universe of films, and he's brilliant in the film. And I'm just stunned at his passing and how it all went down. Of course, they're still investigating and all that, but may he rest in peace. And what an amazing actor.
100%. Let's launch right into him as Lex Luthor. One of the things that is so spectacular about him is Gene Hackman is one of those actors that is unbelievably grounded in everything he does.
Yeah.
He's not a sketch comedy guy. He doesn't put on whatever. He is someone who is internally leading the life that he is supposed to lead.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So even with the absurdity that he's dealing with these people, as Lex Luthor dealing with Miss Tessmacher or Otis, he is still 100% grounded. Every time he gets upset with them, every tiny little insult, it's still coming from a place of, I'm living this, you know? It's not put on. It's not, I don't know, it's not Zoolander, which it very easily could have, considering the dialogue, some of the dialogue that was given.
Yeah.
You always believe Gene Hackman in a role.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And even we forget he was in Young Frankenstein and was hilarious.
Oh, fantastic.
But not what you'd think he'd be in, and he was great.
Right.
You know, there was an argument by Siskel and Ebert that he should have won the Oscar over Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. He should have won for Mississippi Burning. That I've always agreed with, and I see a lot of times where that it just simply because of what the role offers. You know, like
Right.
Yes.
Hoffman nailed his thing, and then but it kind of limits his interaction with other people, but he did it great.
Yeah.
Hackman in Mississippi Burning, he's got to act one way with the sheriff's wife.
Yeah.
He's got to act a totally different way with the sheriff. He's got the rednecks. He's got to act yet a third way.
Yeah.
And yet dealing with his partner, Willem Dafoe, he has to act this way. So he just has all these different ways that his character has to interact with these people to get what his character wants and what justice needs in that film. And so, I always thought he was one of the greatest actors of all time. If it weren't for Harrison Ford and Tom Cruise, it's probably my
Gene
favorite
Hackman,
actor.
yeah.
Right.
Just unbelievable.
And just because you haven't heard it enough on any of our podcasts, because I believe it comes up every single time, it was the wrong movie for him to go out on. Okay, Paul, talk about it.
Welcome to Mooseport. We needed one more after Welcome to Mooseport, but he retired on that 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's where we are.
One thing I want to say about his portrayal too of Lex Luthor, and this is something that I think is important when you play a bad guy or whatever, is first of all, they believe what they're doing is right, maybe just for them,
Yes.
but they believe it's right. And secondly, they're having a massively good time with it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I whenever I see somebody playing, the struggling bad guy, I mean, that's a different story, I guess, but it's so much fun when you watch somebody just enjoying, because there are people that just want to watch the world burn. I hate to say it, it's true, but we see it in the news, right?
Yeah.
There are just people that want to watch the world burn, and he is he's literally one of them. He wants to watch. He doesn't care that these people are going to die. He's going to have this beachfront property, and I mean, it is a massively crazy plan. And I want to say one thing about the entirety of this film, and then we'll come back to Gene Hackman if we want to say more. But for me, the first half of this movie, I absolutely love. I'm an origin story guy. I love origin stories, and I think they do the origin story here so beautifully. It's well crafted. It's beautiful filmmaking. I miss that in movies where we actually took time. I mean, my God, how long do we wait before we even see him in the outfit? I think it's an hour in or something like that.
It is. I have it.
Yeah,
Give me a second.
and it's incredible. So I just want to say that that whole first half of the movie for me is out of this world. Second half of the movie, to me, falls off the rails a bit. I still love the movie. It's still in my top 10. Or top 20, whatever that number's up to now. But it does fall off a little bit, and maybe that's just because we've been spoiled now with the type of superhero movies we're able to make, which they weren't able to make as much back then because it was all practical effects and stuff.
Hour heavy. Lex Luthor is not fully seen until just over an hour into the film. Christopher Reeve doesn't even come on screen until 48 minutes into the film.
Right.
And the word Superman is not heard for an hour and 33 minutes.
I totally forgot that Lois Lane coins that.
Yeah.
I was like, when I was watching it, I was like, oh, she says it, and I love how she plays. She's like, what a Superman.
Yeah.
It's interesting you talk about this half of the movie and that half of the movie, because I saw a good breakdown. You probably saw the same thing that says it's more in thirds. You have,
I agree.
the sci-fi section, and then you have the Norman Rockwell section, and then you have the big city section.
That's
where
probably
Superman
a better
opens into the becomes more of a savior for the world. At that point.
That's probably a better assessment.
Two things about Gene Hackman. One, he had a mustache which he refused to shave originally for this. So Donner said, "I'd like to have lunch with you. We can talk about this." And Donner goes to lunch with a mustache as well. And at the end of lunch, he agrees, "I'm going to shave my mustache if you're willing to shave yours." And Hackman does. And then Donner goes home and he had a fake mustache on. He didn't really have a mustache at all. 2, though, Gene Hackman refused to shave his head for the role of Lex Luthor.
Oh.
So the makeup people had to intentionally style his hair poorly so it looked like a bunch of different wigs that he was wearing throughout the course of the movie.
Wow.
And when you finally see him bald, it's a bald cap, obviously. But it was just like the fact that they went to the trouble of just like, no, we can't make him look good. This has to look like a wig. And then they place all the wigs around in the background, of course, in his lair. Yeah.
One thing I want to say about the movie, though, in general, is this movie is magic. Like, to me, there's such a beauty to the overall sense of this. Like, I don't know if it's just our youth or I don't know what it is, but there's a magic to this movie that I do feel is missing in modern film.
Yeah, I mean, my friend Adam, who I do podcasts with here at the Movie Guys, said that he saw it recently, and he sat down and he's like, I'm going to cry sometime during this movie. And he saw it coming. It's after the first superheroics from Reeve as Superman.
Yeah.
And Lois goes, who are you? He goes, a friend.
Yeah.
He flies away, and Adam's like, that's
Fantastic.
it. Waterworks started to fall.
What was interesting as I was watching this, the difference in filmmaking between then and now, and it's also why this movie runs 2 hours and 30 minutes, is that instead of just after he saves her, you see him do 5 other things, and they take their time with each one of them.
Yep.
If it was made today, it'd be a montage. It would be, okay, he saves the plane. Okay.
Guys, we got to get out of this in
saves the
15
train.
seconds.
Right.
Okay, we see the plane.
Exactly.
Like,
and on top of that,
even the line of the pilots going, don't look.
Yes. Just fly.
Fly. Like, they take forever to deliver that line.
100%.
Nowadays, they would have been like, you know what? Don't even use that line. Just he looks over and then we cut out. Like,
there's actually a moment where they hold for even more of a laugh, which it was one of those moments in the film where I'm like, I don't even think they do that today. Freckles, I think is the name of the
cat.
The cat is taken out of the tree. Superman hands it to the little girl. Superman flies away. We see her run into the house.
Yes.
We hold on the house, and you hear her say, "Mommy, I just saw a man fly away." And she says, "Don't make up stories." Slap.
yeah, I was gonna bring that one up. I'm like, I can't believe that they like abused the child,
Right.
and on top of it, they're using it as like a bit.
Yes.
like oh yeah, she goes in the house and then she gets smacked for lying.
Right.
That's hilarious.
You understand the mother, like we get it. They're not used to this, so the mother's keeping the reality. Don't make up stories. But to follow it with a the only I was waiting. Are they going to go one step further with "Oh, not again" or something? Yeah, it's just insane. One of my noteworthy moments of the entire film.
Well, maybe that's a little bit of Mario Puzo coming through, because people forget the Godfather screenwriter pitched the first script to this. I think it ended up mostly getting scrapped, but he got a story credit. So maybe he was just like, you keep your mouth shut when about what you're talking about over here.
Before we do jump into casting and then maybe some of our super favorite moments, one of the other notable moments for me that really stood out was, one, I didn't know John Ratzenberger was in this movie.
I didn't either.
John Ratzenberger is in the Pentagon, and he's the one who's saying, I don't know where it's going.
Oh.
It's heading east. And they keep coming back to him. He's like, I don't have control of it anymore. And I was like, what?
Oh, yes, this is the guy from all the Toy Stories and all the...
and
Cheers, of course.
Yeah, I was like, oh my...
Yeah.
Well, he's also in Empire Strikes Back. It's for like one line. And I was just like, John Ratzenberger, if you were to do a movie, guys, where you watch all of his movies, now that would be something.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other thing that really stood out for me, these are just noteworthy moments. These weren't favorites. What does Lois Lane get paid as a reporter? Is
apparently a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, you're
Her
right.
apartment with a veranda in New York City. I mean, this isn't a balcony. This is an outdoor garden in New York City.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
I guess it was a simpler time. Nobody knew what anything cost. Or maybe, New York City was just a dump back then. So
That happens a lot in the movies. There's a therapist in Shrinking who has this gorgeous house in Pasadena. I'm like, therapists make money, but that?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you see them struggling with clients on the show and everything. It's like, okay.
I don't remember the exchange about her panties. When he's like...
Oh, really?
When she's like, what color underwear I'm wearing. And I'm like, I don't like I remember this scene.
Right.
I remember it being sort of like a flirtatious kind of scene. I'm like, that just flew over my head.
That leads me into one of my favorite moments of the movie. As coming back and watching it, I appreciated that scene so much.
Yeah.
I'd never noticed before, and I've never seen it in any other iteration. He's not just in love with her; he is smitten.
Yeah.
Like they sit down and he just deadlocks eyes with her.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's got "I want to take you to bed" written all over those eyes. Like he's
take a movie.
I mean, really, and it's just like you could see if this was the test screening or the test
scene. Yeah, the test scene.
That's why she got it. She got it. Like this chemistry right here. This is your whole movie.
Yeah.
Of the two of them in the interview and being professional, and then turning with, looking and saying, "Oh, they're pink."
Yeah.
And, or saying what? And your panties. They're pink.
Yeah.
And then she moves in so we can't see them anymore. I was
Right.
just like, oh, I guess I embarrassed you, Lois.
Yeah.
I mean, just the back and forth in that scene was spectacular.
It's a well written scene.
It's a well written scene, but it's so well performed. It's so well, yeah.
The entire sequence of can you read my mind? I was watching it and I'm like, this is like a poetry moment.
It's very 70s.
Like I'm like, what is even happening? Like why? Now they would never let a scene like that ever.
It's
like,
raindrops keep falling on my head.
Yeah, I mean,
Butch Cassidy and
you're
Sundance
just
Kid.
watching this, going, what is she? And she has an inner monologue, and like, what is happening right now?
She was originally supposed to sing the song. They didn't like it, so they just had her speak the lines. She was originally supposed to sing that. Wow. Can you read my mind?
I'm glad
There were a lot of bad ideas. Well, because all they were going off
weren't all good ideas.
Well, they were also going off of what have we done in this Batman TV show.
Yeah.
So like Telly Savalas, you may have read, was supposed to be in the movie as Kojak.
Yes.
So like
doing the bit.
Wow.
Yeah. No bits, please.
Yeah.
Donna, cut the bits.
I watched an interesting behind the scenes piece that was done for television, and Christopher Reeve was the host, and it was lovely. But one of the things that I took away from it was how much of an actor's actor he was.
Oh yeah.
He was really, so he was somebody was asking him about like the character and stuff, and he was very thoughtful about like trying to make it different. And I guess they went back and reshot some stuff because they felt like his Clark Kent was a little too goofy, and so they went back and did some reshoots because they wanted to tone that down a little bit. And he was truly an actor's actor. I mean, he was talking about intentions and like trying to. I loved it. I loved that part of it. I thought that was awesome.
The second date, is it the second? No, it might be the first date where he comes in and she steps away. And she's in the other room, and he's his Clark Kent.
Oh my God!
And you see him just stand up, Lois. I have something to tell you.
Yep.
And then he falls back into the kid who's smitten and can't say anything.
Yep.
Back into Clark Kent. Side note, Paul probably knows this. That whole scene, Superman flies away and Clark Kent coming in, is never cut. You see Superman fly
right.
off her balcony.
Right.
She says goodbye. She walks to the door. Clark Kent is at the door.
Right.
It was a movie screen, which they rear projected of Superman flying away while Christopher Reeve was waiting just outside the door. This is the brilliance of back. They wouldn't do something that cool now. They'd CGI
limitations create brilliant ideas.
Exactly. Yeah.
The model work in this is pretty good. Especially I love the Krypton stuff. Although now, with all of our like behind the scenes stuff, you can kind of see through the model stuff. But I love all that. One thing I want to say about the Krypton, and I guess you call it the sci-fi section. If you listen to the voiceover that Marlon Brando does while the baby's getting older in the spaceship and all this stuff, I mean. They go so deep into like the universe and the afterlife and I mean all these kinds of things. They almost set up an entire DC universe that could be I don't know. It was just there's so much to explore in that monologue. And then I guess when he goes to the Fortress of Solitude and he gets his like the next level of education, he does that for 10 years or something? Because when he gets there, he's like 18, 19, 20, something like that.
Yeah.
And then he's like 30 by the time we get to Metropolis. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the Kryptonian piece calls to him when he's 18.
Right.
And then he starts the journey up north.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I never really put all those pieces together as a kid, but watching it now is like, oh, Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I get that journey now.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Going back to Krypton, Richard Donner was very upset that John Barry, who was the production designer, did not get nominated for production design for this movie. Who was it? Jeffrey Unsworth received no recognition from the Academy for their work on his film. I'm sorry. John Barry and Jeffrey Unsworth, who was a cinematographer.
The DP, yeah.
But he was angry because Best Art Direction went to California Suite. And he's like, that movie is about a hotel.
Yeah.
And they copied the image of the hotel. He's like, my production designer created an entire world.
Yeah.
Like, created all of Krypton and the Fortress of Solitude, for crying out loud.
And and all the ice stuff for the before the Fortress of Solitude, all on that, like, what is it, the Pine Tree Studios or whatever that is in London. I mean, like,
Pinewood.
Pinewood. Yeah. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they incorporated large-scale models, miniatures, stunts, flying rigs, wire work, blue screen, blue for film, green for digital.
Yeah.
Little
Which is not, I don't think that's a true statement, but yeah.
to that point, the original suit was bluer than his suit, but it disappeared in the blue screen. So they had to change the color of it. It was a darker blue.
Yeah. Front projection, matte painting, zoom lenses, some animation. They did incorporated everything. And they won a special Oscar for that, even though they lost everything else, including Williams losing to Giorgio Moroder for Midnight Express, which was a decent score, but very dated.
But exactly. Now, it's interesting, you know, Christopher Reeve was recognized. He won the BAFTA for Best Male Lead. You know, we didn't give him any kind of recognition over here. And then I think it also won Best Comedy somewhere. I was like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, the WGA, Best Adapted Comedy. Do you believe that?
This is when their categories just confuse
That's a bad
me.
outfit. I mean, they thought that was funny.
Yeah, I mean, that is a funny moment.
Here's the thing. Had John Travolta been in it, then it would have been duly awarded.
I got
something to tell you.
I got to defer to Adam again, the guy, Adam Witt from the Movie Guys, because he always said something else about just looking at Christopher Reeve is the best to ever do the Superman.
Yes.
And if you look at him just there's a photo of him just standing there with the skyline of New York and the metropolis in the background. He's just standing there in the suit, and Adam's like, "How does he do that? What are you talking about? Look at him.
Yeah.
How does he? What's he doing? Nothing. But how does he do it?
Yeah.
How does he do that? How does he do? How does he?"
Yeah.
How does he do that?
100%.
How is he Spider-Man or Superman? He just is.
Yeah.
He just is.
You talk about people that are just like born to do things in life and in the world. I think he's one of them. By the way, I think Tom Holland is another one who totally born to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's just that. He was meant to be that. Speaking of actors, though, I want to talk a little bit about Marlon Brando because, of course, he was the highest
Can
paid.
we talk a little? I don't know. If that's possible.
Highest paid actor on the set. What did he make for it? Do you have the number?
Well, he later sued for more money. Yes, I do have it.
I got it. He get 3.7 million.
3.7 plus a percentage of the gross for 12 days.
Would you like to know the
of
percentage?
shooting?
11.75% of the film's profit.
I mean, that's clearly how he made so much money. But the other thing, too, is that not only was he the highest paid actor, he had already employed the acting concept, I don't even know what you would say, style, that he did not want to learn his lines. And yet, when you watch his performance, he's so believable.
Yes.
He's so brilliant. I was watching it too, reminding myself, okay, he is using cue cards. Now, apparently my understanding is his methodology was that he would be familiar with the lines, but you know, he wouldn't actually memorize them.
Right.
Because he felt like in life you're sort of searching for the words, much like I am right now. And but
I believe you.
Thank you. But so you shouldn't, so you should have that same thing when you're delivering these written lines. And so I'm watching this and I'm going, it doesn't look like he's looking at cue cards. It looks like he's,
Right.
I don't know how, whatever his technique was with looking at the cue cards was really good. And he's brilliant with it. But at the same token, you're like, man, you're the highest paid actor on the set. You can't learn your lines.
Yeah, 100%. And top billing, by the way.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Top billing.
Oh, yeah.
It's according to the posters, it's a Marlon Brando film.
Right. Yeah.
He's in it. What were you going to say, Paul? Jump in, because I got a ton to say about it.
Go on.
It was just, originally he met with Donner, and was pitching things like, what if we don't know what these Kryptonians look like? What if they're all just like animated? What if they're all like just green blobs, right? What if they don't speak English and we just have subtitles down below? This is after he has his contract, by the way. What if it's just all subtitles and we just say beep, beep, boop, 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 beep, beep, that type of thing? And then he said, what if we're all just bagels?
Yeah, I heard that.
Are you kidding me?
No. And then
He said that?
he said that to Donner, and apparently Donner finally said, no, we're not doing any of that. And then it came out that he was just being tested. Is that Marlon Brando was testing Donner to see if he was any kind of decent filmmaker. So, but part of me also thinks, no, I think you really didn't want to actually work, and I think you just wanted to provide voiceover so you wouldn't have to do
Right,
anything
right.
because he was just notoriously known for being lazy. And Chris Reeve, later on, he talks about him in several interviews saying the guy's just phoning it in. And he said it wasn't a great experience working with him, and how saddening that was because he was someone that Reeve had his whole life looked up to, like so many actors. You know, Sylvester Stallone, there's a story, we'll get into casting in a minute, but it was just like Sylvester Stallone was turned down. He went after the role, and Marlon Brando was able to talk about casting, and he said, no, you're not using this guy. Which is crazy because if there's anyone who seemed like they were a young Marlon Brando, it would be Sylvester Stallone, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear the story of the Terrence? Now I feel like my mic has been thin. Like I don't sound as thick. But,
Sound good over here?
Sound okay? All right.
You're thick as always, my
All right,
friend.
All right.
That's not age.
I'm going to go with that. Whoa, buddy.
Blood flow.
Have you heard? It's Terrence Stamp, right? Who plays the?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a story of Terrence Stamp and Marlon Brando talking on the set. Have you heard this? And Marlon Brando comes up to Terrence and says, "So, did you read the script?" And Terrence Stamp goes, "Yes." And he's like,
Months ago? Yeah.
I didn't read it as I was afraid it was going to be bad. So he says he didn't read the script because he was afraid it was going to be bad.
Right.
So he just didn't read it at all.
Right, exactly.
And he's the highest paid person on the set, didn't read the script and doesn't know his lines. Which by the way,
And wants to be a bagel.
suck
Yeah, wants to be a bagel.
yeah, suck on that every acting school ever. Like, you need
exactly.
to learn your lines and you need to read the script. The whole script, you can't just read your scenes.
That is hilarious. Yeah. And it makes you wonder, of the things he said, how much of those were words that were really in the script, or was it just an approximation?
Right.
That made
Right.
sense, that worked.
Right.
But just his own lines. I mean, in the research, you'll also find that they quite frequently used his first take.
Oh.
Almost exclusively, they used his first take. They were always the most natural. They were always the most, and there's something to be said for that, because when you're reading a line for the first time, you will pause, you'll think, you'll continue reading, as opposed to if you're saying the same line you've said several times before, it all starts to sound the same.
Yeah, I'm editing a feature right now, and I do find that earlier takes a lot of times. They're more in the moment, a little bit smoother. By the time you get to, if you get to take 4, sometimes it gets laborious. Yeah. There's a great story. Stanley Kubrick actually has a great story about people complaining about him, and I love the story because he's like, I expect actors to come prepared and know their lines, and then we're going to do the work. And he says what happens is actors come and they want to party and they want to stay out late and drink and carouse and have a good time. And then they come in and then they don't know their lines. And then they go on a talk show and they say, oh, Stanley Kubrick's the worst. He wants to do like 20 takes. And he's like, because you don't know your lines.
That
Takes 15 for it to be good.
Yeah.
I will say this, Marlon Brando, and this was something that later Christopher Reeve talked about. He said, the most frustrating thing about all this is that I saw him being lazy. But everyone who sees this film says he's phenomenal. So the whole world is okay with him being lazy.
Which became his career. That was his whole thing, right? Because eventually he used the earpiece and all of that stuff.
Refused to wear pants so he could only be shot in close up. Things like that. To his credit, it was his idea to go with the Superman S on his chest as the family crest. That was all Marlon Brando. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Because there is that scene with all the people, the
Kryptonians.
Yeah, the Kryptonian, but they're like the
council
of something. Yeah.
Which does bring up a question about, Jor-El. So he's the lead attorney in the prosecution against, Zod and his crew. And then he's also an engineer and scientist as well.
Yeah.
Like this guy, there's a lot of schooling that went into this. Yeah.
Well, and there's another part of me too that's like, he says, "You have my word. Me and my wife will not leave Krypton."
Yes.
And I think to myself as I'm watching the ship go away, going, maybe you just lie and go. I mean,
because literally it's happening, guys.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's, literally.
And who's alive to come after you?
Right? Yeah, like, nanny, nanny, boo, boo. I live, and you don't.
Right.
Like, I mean, I don't know. That's,
There's room for everybody on the door. Titanic reference.
Also, going back to that spaceship, once again, don't mean to pick it apart. These are just little things that come into my head. Where's that baby pooping for 3 years?
Yeah.
In that ship?
Eating.
Yeah.
Right.
What's he eating for
Super.
3
He
years?
doesn't have either. He's super.
Superhero. He
doesn't
has no
eat.
digestive system.
The crystals both give him energy and absorb waste.
Okay.
So
There's your
it's
answer,
a
fishbowl.
throughput
Right.
of things. The ending, and it's set up twice in the movie. You cannot meddle in human
Don't
history.
interfere.
Don't interfere in human history. Right? It's mentioned twice. It is forbidden.
Yes.
Is what the actual line is. It is forbidden. Okay. And then he does it. To no real consequence?
Well,
Again, who's going to come after him?
right.
Yeah. I mean, so why is it forbidden?
Well, this was interesting stuff. Doing research for this, I found one person break it down. Like when Lois is interviewing him, and he says, "I never lie," says the guy who's pretending to be Clark Kent.
I thought that too.
So
Great point.
that's setting up anything he does later that must be done in the name of saving
Yeah.
people and
Yeah.
So he's going to do what he's got to do.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
What's the consequence? Lois lives.
Right.
Yeah,
Ta-da.
I mean, well,
And
we
even
were-
when he gets to her, there's no earthquake, apparently.
Well, and we were talking, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about, just superhero movies on our way up here in general and stuff. And my big issue with like Endgame, which I think is a great film, but I still take. I know, it's okay. We're gonna be okay.
Both of us are on our we're both on our hind legs.
I still have an issue with time travel. And I know it's a time heist, so they frame it differently. Okay, but still, it's time travel, and it's in a storytelling device. It's an easier way out. It's similar to we woke up and everything that was horrible was just a really bad dream. And I'm not saying that Marvel didn't do a good job of still having consequences and stuff like that to some degree. Although I still go, there were people on airplanes, and where did they go when they came back? Just saying, but that's a whole other.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So for the blip, where do those people reappear?
And they're still
Falling through the sky.
Yeah, so they just disappeared nicely, and now they have a horrifying death. But that's beside the point. But the one thing that does bother me a little bit about Superman the movie is that in the end he just turns back time, and that becomes how he saves Lois and sort of restores all of this terrible stuff that Luthor had done and
I think he only saves Lois when he
no,
turns back time.
No,
He doesn't do
all the
anything else.
rocks go back. All the flooding,
The Hollywood
all
sign.
the Hollywood sign goes. I mean, the Hoover Dam or whatever that is, like that all goes back. All of that goes back.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I have again. To me that's basically a time travel moment, right?
Yeah.
It's a time travel moment, and it's sort of an easy device and an easy kind of way out. Like, well, how do we wrap this up? Well, he just spins the planet, and then he spins it back, so we're good. Like,
Yeah. I mean, he uses the powers he has to get it done.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
But by setting up that it is forbidden, even though he does it, is that they still have instilled upon him, listen, this is awful. Like it worked this time, but that's not always going to be
The way you should fix things. Yeah.
because it can go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Butterfly effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we talk about casting?
Yeah,
Some
do
of
it.
some of the casting was crazy. Goldie Hawn was the first choice for the role of Miss Tessmacher.
I could see that.
I could see that,
Yeah,
actually.
she'd be great.
I think she would have been great in
Yeah.
that role. She wanted too much money, So they approached Anne Margaret, who also wanted too much money. Anne Margaret's too much of a star, I think, for that role. I think it would have been a different film.
I agree. I don't think she would have certainly wouldn't have played it that way. The woman, who is the woman? What's her name?
Valerie Perrine.
Yeah. Brilliant. I think
Fantastic.
she's so great in that
perfect.
role. God,
Yeah.
I love her in that role.
and sincere. She's wonderful. This was interesting. Okay, Jack Klugman was first choice for Perry White. Okay, then they went to Eddie Albert, and then they had to something came up and they had to go to Ki Win, accepting the part last time. In my mind as a kid, it's Jack Klugman. Like if I think back to when I was a child, who was in, the Daily Planet with him, it was the actor Jack Klugman that was doing it. So
any of those guys,
Jack Klugman, totally interchangeable in my book.
Yeah. I mean, Jackie Cooper ended up with it.
Yeah,
exactly.
and he's awesome. He has such great speeches and
100%.
Did you know that?
But all interchangeable is what I'm saying.
Agreed. Yeah, Eddie Albert would have been great.
Yeah.
the original Superman and Lois are on the train when he's running past the train.
Yes.
That the parents of the little girl are the original Superman from like the radio days.
No,
Yes.
really?
And the Lois, I think she was from the television show.
Right.
And then did you know that little girl is supposed to be Lois Lane?
Yes.
I didn't know that until I watched this documentary.
I read it.
Yeah.
And that was the only time I knew.
Yeah,
I never knew that.
I had no idea. To me, it's like a weird Easter egg of like, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no real payoff or any.
No.
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Keenan Wynn didn't end up doing it because he literally had to go to the hospital the night before.
Oh,
they were
no.
supposed to start shooting, yeah. So that's when they ended up going with Jackie.
That's too bad.
Jeff East, among the many people. Jeff East is the one who plays younger Clark. Auditioned for Superman. Didn't get it, obviously. He also auditioned for the role of Jimmy Olsen. Okay. This is crazy. Some of the people that were originally offered it. Robert Redford. Could you see that? Young Robert Redford.
Too big of a
in this
star, I
room?
think he said, right?
Yeah. But can you imagine the role? It would have been a very different movie.
I don't see him as that at all.
Well, here's the thing. Redford, Newman, and Hackman are all, I put them in the school of guys who make it look easy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's Clark. Clark's
Yeah.
got to be the nerd and all. He's got to do these other things instead of just be.
Have you ever
look
seen
easy.
Redford goofy? Could you see him as a Clark Kent?
No,
It would be very different,
yeah.
right? I feel like this entire film, it wouldn't have any. There's no way it would have won the DGA award for adapted comedy if Redford were in it. Certainly not Clint Eastwood or James Caan. James Caan was offered the part
James
of
Caan
Superman.
and John Travolta going back. Hey, what are you doing over there? With a Mario Puzo script. That's a whole different movie.
but that is also that style of filmmaking in the 70s.
It was
when
gritty.
you talk about like that sort of grid, like, and also they're trying to raise money for. They're trying to
This
do
is
like
true.
you said that these filmmakers had done a bunch of like obscure things and then now they're doing Superman.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like okay, they're trying to make this work. Like okay, so we need stars. Where do you get stars? Like we get these stars. Like that's it.
Apparently, it was actually Marlon Brando called up Caan because he knew him, worked with him, said, you need to do it. And Caan's actual response was, I'll do my best Jimmy Caan, which is going to be a terrible Jimmy Caan.
All right, let's hear it.
His best Jimmy Caan was, yeah, but don't you have to wear the cape? No way I'm getting in that silly suit. That's my James
That
Caan.
was a great, like if James Caan was a character on The Simpsons, that was perfect.
I think he was on The Simpsons.
I think that was perfect. Who's the actor? Is his name Larry Hagman?
Yes.
Is that played the general?
Yes.
And
I Dream of
that
Jeannie.
and that moment where she's on the ground and. Isn't that him? No, isn't that
I don't
him?
think that's
Or no,
Larry
That's not
Hagman,
Larry
no.
Hagman. Who is that?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. When Miss Tessmacher is
Yeah.
on
When
the
Miss
ground
Tessmacher's on the
pretending
ground.
to be hit by the car.
That moment is like literally a goofy joke. He's like, I think she needs CPR. You have to rub her. He literally says you're going to have to vigorously rub her chest. And I think she needs mouth to mouth. I wouldn't have any of my troops do anything I wouldn't do myself. All right. And he says, Ted Hutt. And they go, and then he goes, about face. And they all turn around and he does it. And I'm just like, what is happening?
In the middle of this Superman movie, we are going to have a guy molest an unconscious woman. She's not really unconscious, but still. Paul Newman offered Superman, Lex Luthor, or Jor-El for $4 million. He said no to all three. He's like, not interested. Hard pass.
I would have loved to have seen Paul Newman as Jor-El.
I think, yeah.
I think that would have been.
Yep.
I think that would have been interesting.
I think it would have been equally good.
I think it would have been equally good, and maybe. I don't think it would have been as weighty. You know what I mean?
Fantasy or sci-fi of any kind? Did he ever? I can't picture it.
I can't think. No,
You just think of
he's done period westerns. Yeah, Pioneer. Jeez, I can't think of a single sci-fi
it's
that
just
he ever did.
Maybe this is not his vibe, and he's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Joan Crawford for the role of Ma Kent. She was too ill to do it. Died before production.
Oh, that's too bad.
Other actresses screen tested for the role of Lois Lane: Ann Archer, Leslie Ann Warren, Deborah Raffin, Susan Blakely, Stockard Channing. That would have been something. And
She
April
came
Byron.
close, right? I might not. I think
Yeah.
that would have seen that.
Margot Kidder was chosen over them for the fact that she was the only one who found humor in the line, "What color underwear am I wearing?" Yeah. And Leslie Ann Warren actually portrayed Lois Lane earlier in the television special, "It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman." Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
What are those? I don't know. I think Stockard Channing actually would have been pretty good.
The fast talking New York type.
Yeah.
She'd be great.
Yeah, she would have been good for it. Any of the others, not so much. John Travolta auditioned. And I mean, he had the last laugh. He did Grease, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had more money.
at the box
I
office.
mean, it is the word.
Tell you what, on this one, I'm going to give. I hate you. I'm angry. It took me half a second to say, what did he just say? And then brought up the memory to go, oh, fuck that. On this one, I'm going to give you the actor. You tell me what they auditioned for.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Peter Boyle.
Ooh. Now, any
Luthor?
parts on the table?
What's his name?
Yeah, Otis.
Otis. Yeah.
Otis,
Thank
yes.
you. Yeah.
He
is that
auditioned
right?
for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, I heard about this.
I think he auditioned for Superman.
No.
Damn it.
Lex.
Lex, he turned it down,
yeah.
right? I think.
Yeah.
He got it and turned it down?
Yeah, he turned down the part.
What?
It would have been a very different Superman. There wouldn't have been any funny to it.
What's
I don't
interesting is now that feels very, very reminiscent of oh God, what's his name? Who plays Luthor in the Batman v Superman?
Miss Tessmacher, I think you're trying to seduce me.
think. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. 100%.
From the Social Network.
Yeah,
Eisenberg. Very reminiscent in terms of like
maybe
a similar kind of feel to that character.
But Eisenberg's Luthor was just, in my opinion, a rehash of Jim Carrey's Riddler.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Okay.
Carrie Fisher
Oh well, clearly Lois.
up for Lois.
Yeah.
I found that fascinating.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. George Lucas actually turned down the chance to direct this.
What?
How different would this have been if George Lucas had done it?
He was swamped.
I mean,
He was
he
swamped
was
at
pretty
the time.
busy
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George Kennedy, Jack Nicholson, and Gene Wilder were all considered for the role of Lex.
Oh my God, Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder
oh
would have
my
been
God.
spectacular.
Yeah, that'd be
Again,
fun.
going back to the bad guy having a great time.
Yeah, but also-
I would love to have seen that.
Gene Wilder, in all of his nuttiness, is always 100% grounded. The Producers is the greatest ever. When he absolutely loses it, he's still grounded. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I think Gene Wilder would have been a great choice.
Yeah.
I really do. It would have been different.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been
it would
as
have been-
weighty.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think that would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got as far as other ones.
No, I think that's good. I liked it. The one thing that comes up for me with this movie, and I've talked about this a little bit, is, okay, let's just say the third act, when we get into the Superman stuff. You know, has he done enough yet? Like, I mean, I know it's an older movie, so they can only show so many things. They can only do so many stunts because everything's practical, and they got to build all these rigs and all this stuff to make things happen. But it's like, you know, we only get these moments of like, okay, he saves the cat and he does the thing with the airplane, but it feels like that's all, like, I don't know, the first week Clark Kent's around, and he's just doing these few things, and then suddenly he does this thing way over here in California and saves the day over there, and I don't know. Is it enough? Did we see enough yet to go?
I think so. Based on the movies that follow.
Oh yeah.
Remember remember when we used to like Superman? Like all these current Superman movies, everybody hates Superman.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything great, and it's all morose and sober and lame. So just even if it's just a little bit of showing what Superman is, fighting robberies, doing Superman stuff, good. I'll take it.
Yeah, I get that. I love that. That's a great statement.
I didn't complain about it at the time, but now in retrospect, I'm going, let him be Superman. Let people like him. Let him like people and want to help them. And instead, it's all just like self-reflection and dour Bergman stuff.
Well, they tried to make Superman Batman, but go ahead, Hemsworth.
Yeah, but also what I'm going to say is did they do enough? I'm going to say yes, and it's not just because of the heroic things that he does. It's also the tiny little moments that you get. You can tell every woman in this planet is smitten with Superman. Yeah. He's this tall, good-looking, strong Boy Scout, right? I mean, they literally have scenes where he flies by, and it shows all the women getting up from their desks and running to the window to watch him. The guys aren't moving as quick as the ladies are. Right. You know, even when Miss Tessmacher kisses him, he has that moment of just like, I don't know, he's just likable. The way he is portrayed, he is likable on every level. Every single one. When he says, "Why did you kiss me?" and she says, "Because I didn't think you'd let me kiss you. I didn't think you'd let me kiss you after." And then she says, "Why do I always end up with the bad guys?" And he just sits there, and you could tell that there's a thought process going on in Superman's head at this moment where he could explain to her that may not happen, but it's not going to happen now. There's so much that's going on there. I don't know. It wasn't just about the montage of saving people, he made people smile, he made people excited, he made people happy, all the hope that we're supposed to have, which we don't get in the modern day.
One thing I would have liked to have seen,
use a little dose of truth, justice in the American way.
100%.
I agree, and I agree with your point in general. I liked seeing Superman be Superman again. I mean, I think that's why I get emotional with it. Like, it's just great to see. I mean, it's emotional. It's beautiful. It's awesome. One moment I would have liked to have seen as a setup that we only get as a story point in dialogue is apparently Luthor paid someone to kill people to go get the Krypton stone.
This is true.
We never see that moment. And I actually, as I was watching it go, I was going, oh, wow. That's kind of odd because, movie is show me, don't just tell me. And it was like, oh, they're just going to tell us that they did that. Okay, well, I guess we're believing it.
This does bring us to a little bit that Sean and I had said we wouldn't necessarily go into, partly because we can't. All right, so when they showed Superman, the movie, on television, the Salkinds negotiated with the network based on time, not on a flat fee to show the movie. So the network is paying them to show the movie based on time. So the Salkinds said, we are going to put in every frame that we have edited back into this movie. It was over 3 hours long. I'm wondering if there's anything in those extra 40 minutes that had to do with that.
Oh, I wonder. Okay, I don't know that.
Donner didn't care for that cut, and he only had final cut on theatrical versions of the show. So when the Salkinds said those, they showed it in 2 parts and had previously ons on the second part to catch you up when you would watch part 2 of Superman.
Yeah,
so it was it made for more advertising time, and they made more money.
To your point, I think it's nice to have, we do need this again. We need hope. I mean, I think there was a lot of these movies of this time were about hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of the biggest movies were about hope. I mean, Star Wars is about hope. This movie's about hope. I mean, absolutely, we need
the first set stills from James Gunn's Superman showed like the army all around Superman, and he's in handcuffs. I'm like, come on, no,
right?
Don't make him this alien that we're all scared of.
Yeah.
Let have him come in and fight crime and make the world better.
Well, and even the later cuts of the trailer, I've only seen a few, but there's a moment where he's walking into some building and somebody clearly throws something at him.
Sean, what's his name? The guy from Universal. He's from Universal.
He's the one throwing the
twins. Cup? Yeah, the guy from Waterworld.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah. Well, I'm glad he got some work. But
we know that guy.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. Hey, hooray for him! But I still think it's like there's a part of me that's like, to your point, like, no, I want to. That's why there were a few moments in the James Gunn trailers, that I really did go, oh, this feels hopeful.
It does.
This feels hopeful.
Yeah, but you're right. I forgot about the throwing of stuff.
Yeah,
Stop it.
Well, and the other thing that I'm trying not to watch too many of the trailers and too many different cuts of that, but then they introduce these other characters, these other whatever they are, super.
Hal Jordan.
Hal
You know,
Jordan.
I mean,
no, it's Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner. I mean, that's going to be
with
fun.
the Guy Gardner haircut. By the
bowl.
way,
There was a little clip they put out on the Super Bowl Sunday. This is the only bowl we care about. It showed like him just kind of playing with his hair.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff I'm interested to see, but again, that I think that was the other thing about Superman the movie that I loved was that it's just about Superman. It's just about him.
This is true. This is true. Yeah. Focus once again, going back to one of the few things from, Batman or Dawn of Justice, maybe it is from Dawn of Justice, or maybe it's from Justice League. I don't remember. The Batman, the advice he gives to the Flash: get in, save one person. Then you'll do it again. Then do it again, and you'll know what to do. That's what DC needs to do. They need to get in and make one good movie. Okay?
Yeah.
Make a good movie. I know you have a universe. Go and make a good movie.
Yeah.
Then come back and make another good movie and keep doing that, and that will build your universe.
But here's the question: if that's the point of view, which I think is a good point of view, but I don't personally believe anybody sets out to make a bad movie.
No.
And I don't think that they think that the movies that they have made are necessarily all bad. And some of them I think that they have made are good. They're fun, and there's some different ones. Like I said, I do like the Flash movie. And you guys are gonna look at me crazy, but I enjoyed the Blue Beetle movie. Now
I hear it's enjoyable, but
they
I
are
never
both
saw
okay.
it.
Right,
So,
I didn't see it.
I was at that point we had done Black Adam, and I was like, fool me once, fool me 12 times.
Right,
I was like, I'm out.
12 times.
I really enjoyed the Blue Beetle movie. Is it the greatest superhero movie? Absolutely not. But is it fun? And I love the kid who's from Cobra Kai. He's awesome. And there's some great stuff in there. I mean, it kind of takes some weird turns here and there, but it's super fun.
No,
and
that's the problem. Is I heard it was charming, but I'm like, I'm already out.
Yeah.
I've declared
Yeah.
myself out on DC.
I think the biggest challenge is that everybody is chasing the Marvel methodology. They want, because essentially all these big studios want franchises, and they all want franchises and make big money. That's what they're really chasing, instead of
Trying to tell one story.
Yeah,
That's
well,
my problem.
yeah,
It's too
yeah.
muddy. That all of them just get way, way, way too muddy.
Yeah.
Well, nobody has a Kevin Feige, but James Gunn might be the closest.
This is true.
They can get, because, I want to see a movie where a director comes to a studio and goes, if I don't make this movie, I die. I'm going to die. I need to make this movie. And then they fund it and he makes it and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
As opposed to a studio going, we got this movie. Who wants to make it? And then they hire somebody and whatever.
This was written by some guys who normally work on spreadsheets.
I think Gunn is the best of both. He's in the big franchise going, I got to make this, needs all to be done right. I got to do this.
Right.
So I really have hope in that respect.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I'm also interested to see, because I have said, are the DC superheroes aged? Is the Truth, Justice, American Way kind of like the coming out of? I mean, guys, Superman is from the 1930s. Like, we are almost 100 years of Superman. This is crazy. It's amazing that it's lived this long. And can it keep going? I think that's really the question that the James Gunn movie is gonna answer.
Perhaps.
There's some superhero moments in that, and that's all I ask for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that trailer, I should say.
For time's sake, what are
because
you
we're at
looking
an hour and a half, so I think I'm just kidding. I know, I'm joking.
What are you looking forward to coming up for the rest of this countdown? What are you looking forward to? Or do you want to do final thoughts on Superman?
Let's do both. I'm first of all, I'm looking forward to watching all of these movies because some of them I've only seen once. I'm really looking forward to seeing, this is going to sound funny, Superman 3, because I think I only saw that maybe once or twice. And I remember even as a kid watching it going, I feel like I'm supposed to like this movie.
Right.
I don't like this movie. Yeah. I'm wondering if there's more in that movie that I'm going to like, or if I'm going to just return to, wow, this is really, really bad.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that. I am interested in seeing the Henry Cavill stuff again. You know, I do think I feel really bad for that actor. I mean, he just got robbed with this whole, you know, shift in casting and stuff, especially after like literally being told, hey, you're coming back.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, you know what? But thank you for quitting that show that you were making all that money on. We really appreciate that.
Yeah,
like, you know,
that's
I mean,
the worst.
Just, you know, and he's whatever. Anyway.
Give us the Cavalrine.
Yeah. Oh,
movies.
absolutely.
I
Give us
take those.
Cavalrine.
Jackman's done. Give us Cavalrine.
Yeah, I agree. And I will also say this. So jumping back just to Superman the movie, out of 10 being best, I give Superman the movie like a 9.5.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal film.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
Yeah, I think we're peaking early. I can't think of anything past Superman 2 that I'm excited to look forward to. I'll talk about it. But if I thought about what I'm looking forward to, it happened during this conversation when I realized I hadn't seen the Donner cut of Superman 2.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to watching that. So when we talk about Superman 2, I'm very more informed than I currently am.
I'm very excited about that as well. I'm excited about all of this because I do want to kind of watch them all back to back and see what's going. And also some of the stories behind these are great. Superman 4, the story behind it is fantastic. Like it really is, and
that's
it
interesting.
helps to go and show that once again, Christopher Reeve, this guy truly was just a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
Like he was just someone out there who's just like, I just want to make the world better. And you know, it's so tragic that he ended up what ended up coming about with him, but also at the same time, you know, a testament to this guy because then he still continued to say, I want to make this world better. So I am interested in that, in that branching off and going into that. I don't know that Superman 4, even as a child, I remember thinking, this is terrible.
Well, canon films taking over anything is not good for the thing.
Well,
Interesting. I'm very excited for Superman 2, the Donner cut. I'm told that it even has, some scenes are just animatics. That's what we see, that they never finished. So we'll see. I'm really looking forward to watching it.
All right, do yourself a favor and go rewatch Superman the movie. It is awesome. In the meantime, stick around with us as we ramp up for the new movie. It's not unlike Indiana Jones because I needed the apology and I got it with Dial of Destiny.
Yeah.
So maybe Superman by James Gunn will be an apology for some of the previous Superman movies that didn't quite do it for me, but this one did. So it's a great rewatch. So go watch Superman the movie and follow us at Countdown Movie Show on Facebook and Instagram, and over at X we're at Countdown 23 Show because we're still in the 2-3 month. I'm trying to find a new handle over there.
Countdown 2-3
because we were doing Countdown to 3 previously.
Countdown 2-3.
Got it. Right.
So
Yeah.
But I'll find a new handle there. And email us at countdownmovieshow@gmail.com.
Right. Call in if you have any questions.
Yeah, 555-1212.
And Countdown Movie Show also at YouTube, I should mention as well.
Well, thanks for listening. In the meantime, look
Up in the sky!
It's a bird!
it's a plane. It's Countdown to Superman.
Ba, 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 ba.